Ready?
It's time to talk sports. National, local, professional, completely unprofessional, high school and college.
Let's take it even further off the hook.
It's the Zach Gelb Show
We are rolling
on Fox Sports 920, The Jersey.
All right, welcome back in. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, The Jersey. You can hit us up on the David Lerner Associates hotline at 609-919-9200. You can tweet me at Zach Gelb. Barrett Brooks is going to join us in about 20 minutes from now. But now joining us on the David Lerner Associates hotline is, of course, Chris Carlin. You've heard Chris for the last year here in Philadelphia on WIP. Now he's going back up the turnpike, back to his roots in New York with WFAN taking over for Big Mike and Mike Francesa. And that's going to be coming on January 2nd with himself, Maggie Gray, and Bart Scott. We should be in a great mood today. With the Birds being 11-2, a big win yesterday over the LA Rams with a 43-35 victory over the Rams. But as we all know, this morning we got the unfortunate news, the news that we did fear, that Carson Wentz is lost for the season. Chris Carlin, appreciate the time. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, Zach. Sorry I'm late. What's going on, buddy?
No problem. Congratulations, by the way, on the new gig.
Thank you. Very excited to get going here in a couple weeks.
Well, we'll get back to that towards the end of the conversation, but let's first start off with the team that you've been covering for the majority of the season before you decided to bolt back up to New York, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Everyone was believing the Birds going to the Super Bowl. Everything was going to be good, and then bam, yesterday, Carson Wentz goes down for the year. Just a terrible thing to say.
It's just brutal. It's just brutal. I mean, the kid's the MVP of the league in my estimation. Heck, I'd still look at giving him to him now, even through 13 games, positioning that team where he has. And he's done everything right. And look, I'm not going to blame him for chasing after it, trying to score a touchdown on that play. He is a mobile guy. There have been times where you thought he takes too many hits, but when you're a mobile quarterback, you're going to take hits. It's going to happen, and it was a freak thing. Contrary to, I think, a lot of the belief, I just don't see it now. I really don't. Even at 11-2, Zach, I think, they may end up with home field, but I think asking Nick Foles to be able to carry you to the promised land right now, I am highly skeptical of their ability to get there. I think that their Super Bowl hopes went out the window yesterday.
I agree with you, and I've been someone that have been embracing the Super Bowl talk in a city that some people don't want to embrace it. And I asked this on the poll question because there's a lot of people right now today that even though they're down, they're still in a positive mood because they believe in this defense, they believe in the run game, they believe in Nick Foles now stepping into place. Obviously, he's not Carson Wentz, but how do you see this season now ending? Obviously, I don't think it's going to be in the Super Bowl, but can they get to the NFC Championship game? They could still win a home playoff game, right?
Yeah, I think they could. I mean, I think if they have home field advantage in the playoffs, I think they'll get to the NFC Championship game. I'd be surprised if they didn't. I think at this point, though, to ask much beyond that, unless we're talking about, and I don't even think we can talk about this anymore because it's not like you take the Saints out of New Orleans and they're unable to win anymore. That's not the case. They can do a lot of different things to win because they have the offensive rookie of the year in Alvin Kamara. The guy's been unbelievable and pronounced himself healthy for this coming week. The Saints concern me. The Vikings concern me. And I know the Vikings went and lost at Carolina yesterday. I still think they're good enough to beat the Eagles without Carson Wentz. I don't think anybody was if he was healthy enough to be out there. And I'll tell you what really bothers me about the Nick Foles thing is, Zach, remember, this is not a guy that played at all in the preseason because there was
the shoulder.
There's some sort of issue there. And I don't think that that's ever been fully healthy. You saw a couple of good passes yesterday, specifically the one to Aguilar to seal the win. I don't know if that can hold up here through the next several weeks. I really, really am concerned about that.
How much of a difference is Nick Foles to Case Keenum, just because you mentioned the Vikings and you've seen what they've been able to do with the guy that was not supposed to be their starter?
Yeah, I think if Nick Foles was healthy, I would think that it's pretty even, but I don't trust him to be healthy at this point. He's never going to be 27-2. Okay,
that's for sure.
Yeah, that's not what it's going to be. the Eagles' offensive line has played well enough that they can certainly run the football. They can do things that they need to be able to do. But, Zach, when you go through these injuries, as they have, and they've survived the ones that they have so far, this is the one, to me, that you just and it's a quarterback, of course, but you just could not afford to lose the one guy on the team. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah, he's the most imperative player on this roster. As we're talking to Chris Carlin right now on the David Lerner Associates hotline, you envision that offense a little bit, but with Foles now in place, still have a solid run game, number 2 rushing offense in the league. What does this offense look like on Sunday up against a Giants team that we all know you go from good football to now really bad football up in New York?
Yeah, I think this is going to be, first of all, I think they'll be able to beat the Giants. I think this is going to be a home game for them, first of all. I think after yesterday, had the Giants won yesterday, there might have been a feeling among Giant fans of kind of being pumped up and trying to play the role of spoiler and all that kind of stuff. Boy, I'd shudder to look at StubHub and SeatGeek right now to see what's going on there, because I'm sure there are going to be plenty of tickets available, and I'm sure there are going to be plenty of Eagles fans turning that into a home game this week. I'd be stunned if they weren't, and I think the Giant fans are going to bail out this week. I'd be absolutely shocked if that wasn't the case. I don't have any concerns about them beating the Giants. I still think they end up at 13-3 on the season. And I think they end up with home field throughout the playoffs, but I can't see it right now getting to Minnesota. This is a bad football team that they are playing this week. The Giants are a bad football team. That's just all there is to it.
If you look at the backup position, because now people will talk about Nick Foles is one hit away from Nate Sudfeld coming in. And I was having this conversation with some people last night and then even carrying over today. Doug today said that Sudfeld's going to be the backup quarterback. And I thought last night I'd be surprised if going into Week 15 they went outside the organization. I know Doug has said things before, and then another thing happens. Do you think they'll go outside the organization to bring in another quarterback?
I'm with you. I don't, because this is so late in the year now. You've got so many different things in that playbook. You've done so many. It's impossible to bring somebody in and catch them up, or at least get them into a position where they're ready to play. I doubt it very much. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Nate Sudfeld's going to be a savior. The guy's a practice squad player, but I do think he's got some ability. I do like Nate Sudfeld, at least I did in college at Indiana, but I do think he's got some ability. It just doesn't, at this point, to me, it doesn't make any sense to go outside the organization to go get somebody, unless we were talking about somebody that had been here before and would have a clue. But, Matt McGloin,
I'll pass.
Yeah,
big time.
I'll pass, yeah.
Talking to Chris Carlin. Hey, the running back situation this year. It's been by committee. You get a Ajayi right at the trade deadline. Do they need a Ajayi now to be that lead type of back if they're going to want to win some more games this year?
I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to continue to ride this as is, and I think the idea is that they feel like they have all backs between Clement, Ajayi, and Blunt who are going to be productive and, can do enough that they're going to be able to, establish a run game, but at the same time keep all these guys fresh. If Ajayi is not a guy that's carrying the football 30 times a game, then he's going to be fresher when it comes playoff time. I absolutely think they're going to try to keep it in that same mode that they have all year, and either play matchups or play continuing to rotate these guys in and out to keep them fresh.
Let's go up the turnpike and let's talk about the New York Yankees for a few minutes, because we already knew they could hit a lot of prodigious home runs, and now that just increases now in Yankee Stadium and around all of baseball with the Yankees getting Giancarlo Stanton for basically just picking up the contract. Your reaction when you got to see that news over the weekend?
Zach, and I used to really look at it and be like, oh, God, like everybody else, oh, the rich get richer, oh, my God, blah, blah, blah. I got to tell you, as much as we all argue about how bad it is for baseball, I actually think in this case it's good for baseball. We're all talking about baseball, and it's December, and not just because the Giants and Jets are bad. People around the league, around the country are talking about baseball. And this reminds me of the early 2000s Yankees when they went out and they traded for Roger Clemens and they went out and they signed Jason Giambi and guys like that. I think this is good for baseball because, yes, they are going to be the evil empire again, but it gives somebody always going to give somebody something to shoot for. And they didn't win every year. After 2001, after 2000, they didn't win until 2009. So, it's not like it's a given. They're going to be in the playoffs, but there's always something for somebody to shoot for. I think it's a good thing. And I think it'll be an even better thing if the Red Sox go and answer. When Clemens, or, when you had the A-Rod stuff and Kurt Schilling, Schilling ends up in Boston. A-Rod ends up in New York after he was supposed to be in Boston. That's what it's about. I want to see the Red Sox answer here. I want to build that back up into what it was because I do think there have been times over the last few years where that has lacked any kind of a semblance of what that rivalry used to be. Now all we ever do is complain about the length of Yankee-Red Sox games. We never talk about the quality of Yankee-Red Sox games anymore.
I'll tell you, I'm not going to fault the Yankees for using their resources. Maybe back when I was in high school or middle school because that was a juvenile argument. But you look at the team I root for in the Mets. This weekend, you basically have the general manager, Sandy Alderson, who I don't like, telling you, we're not going to be aggressive after the Yankees make a move. And I wasn't asking them to bring in Giancarlo Stanton. He has the audacity to make a Nimmo joke. Like, this guy Alderson, I've had enough with him.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I don't think it's all his fault. I would pin a lot of it on ownership.
No question.
Yeah,
I'll trade the owners if we could.
Yeah, I just, I don't think Sandy has ever felt like the manager is a terribly important position. I don't think that Terry Collins was ever treated with a ton of respect by the organization. And I also think at the same time that you can't be the owner of the New York Mets and look at what's going on right now and not do anything. You can't do it. And, Zach, so much was made over the years about the Madoff stuff. It's not about the Madoff stuff. It's about the money that's owed on that stadium, and making that money back. And that's, the money that's owed on that stadium is where a lot of the issues lie for the Mets. And I think, they have to reinvest in the team. And I know people are going to argue they did with Cespedes, and they did. It can't be it. It can't be it when the team across town is doing what they're doing.
Let me ask you this, because I know the Wilpons are a big target in New York, and deservingly so for the way this franchise has been operated. I know they were just in the World Series a few years ago, but how bad does this need to get with them not being aggressive in New York in a major market for MLB maybe to step in? Like, how bad does it need to get?
It's got to get infinitely worse. Infinitely worse. It's not close. It's got to get to a point where they can't meet payroll or something like that. That's not where they're at. It hasn't become, whatever the Tampa Rays were years and years ago, and we're talking 15 years or whatever it is, not too long after they were, first brought into the league, where they were a mess. It's not. I would not count on that happening anytime soon.
Talking to Chris Carlin, wrapping up with the new afternoon host at WFAN up in New York. Hey, it's Francesa's last week. I know there'll be some fill-in shows happening with probably your name being on the fan as well. And then January 2nd, the new show gets started. So take me through your thought process right now, Chris, and what is your dream job getting able to host afternoons in New York?
There's no question. I mean, Zach, I went to Philly last year thinking that I was going to spend the rest of my career there, and I was perfectly good with it, and I couldn't have enjoyed my year there more. This came up, and I didn't expect it to, and I thought long and hard about it because you are following a legend, and it's difficult to do, but ultimately, I asked myself, am I going to be able to live with myself if this phone call never comes again? And the answer was no. And so, we got going. In talking to Bart and talking to Maggie, I'm very confident that after the initial 6 months of everybody hating us, which they will, because we're not Mike, and we're not going to try to be, that hopefully we'll be able to bring some people in and enjoy the show. It's going to have a different feel to it. But it's still going to be based in one thing, and that is talking New York sports, and that's always going to be the bread and butter. We're not going out trying to reinvent the wheel. Certainly not trying to replace Mike or anything like that, because nobody can. But at the same time, I'm just looking forward to it, because you're right. For guys in our profession, it is a dream job, and I have been incredibly blessed to get this opportunity, and I can't wait.
Hey, it's always tough to replace a legend. We all know that, and Mike is a legend for what he and Dog was able to do at WFAN, but I'm a little shocked by some of the backlash, and I've said it before. Hey, Chris, I have so much respect for you. I think Maggie Gray will be good, but I do think there is some level to the argument about Bart Scott. How will he talk baseball? Expand a little bit on your conversations with Bart and how you think he'll be on the air in New York.
Yeah, I think he's going to be great. Bart's got strong opinions, and Bart, people just automatically assume he can't talk baseball. I think Bart's going to be fine. Bart he's putting in work now. We were talking, I saw him earlier today. We were talking about the Yankees bullpen mess. So I'm very confident in his abilities. And here's what I like about Bart. Bart's a guy that nothing was handed to. He was an undrafted free agent. He had to work his tail off to get into the league. And, I'm not going to lie. You have professional athletes sometimes who, after they play, just want to collect a check and are kind of like, oh, what do I got to do that? And they don't put the work in. That's not Bart. I had the same thing down in Philly with Ike Reese. These guys, they earned everything they got. And they attacked, the things that they need to work on. And you know what? I got news for you. People think that Bart can't talk baseball. I think they'll be surprised with his ability to do it. But I got plenty of weaknesses, too. Maggie's got weaknesses. We all have weaknesses.
We all do. You're right. And sometimes people, they overthink this business. They make it a lot more complicated than it needs to be.
I think he's going to be great. I really do. And, Zach, I'll tell you this. When I first met him and I first met Maggie, Ike and I had something great going in Philly. And, while I said this particular piece of real estate is what it is, I also wanted to make sure that we were going to be in a good position to succeed, and I think we are. I think we've got a great combination here, and it's something different. And I know different always kind of scares some people off at first, and I fully anticipate that. But I think eventually, people are going to warm to us, and I'm looking forward to it.
Are you moving back up north? Didn't you move down into South Jersey?
I did, like 4 months ago.
What did your wife say when you said, "Hey, honey, we're going back up to New York"?
There were quite a few words that were said, and I can't really repeat at the moment. But yeah, it looks like we're going to be moving back. When I don't know, but put it this way, it'll be whatever the boss says. Until then, I'll be ready to commute.
And let me end you on this as we're wrapping up with Chris Carlin, formerly of WIP, now heading over up the turnpike to WFAN up in New York. Mike Francesa, we all know him for behind the scenes. My dad working with him, and you worked with him for a very long time. Just wrap up a little bit of the thoughts in closing about Mike's career as it comes to a close at WFAN on Friday at 6:30.
Yeah, I mean it's as excited as I am for this opportunity. It's even for me, it's not ever going to be the same not listening to him. There were plenty of things throughout the years where you had to be there at 1 o'clock on Monday with Mike and Chris, and then later with just Mike. And that is a special feeling to have for him and for the fan. That's a special connection that you have. I have to hear what this guy is going to say about this. That is a connection that you cannot forge in any kind of a fake manner. That just develops on his own, and it's certainly going to be different. There's no doubt. I don't think it's really hit me yet that you're not going to hear him anymore. And Mike, listen, Mike's got his plenty of detractors and all that, but you can't argue with the success that the guy's had for 30 years.
Biggest question, though, that's on everyone's mind, and final one with Chris Carlin. Who will be getting you your Diet Cokes, by the way?
I will be getting my own Diet Coke. See, I don't even drink Diet Cokes. I'll be getting my own Starbucks. Put it that way on the way in. I unfortunately from the role of producer has changed a bit from when your father and I both had the job. It's not quite as involved as that, as making sure the veal parm hero is there in time.
well, Chris, all the best. Best of luck, and we'll look forward to listening to you on January 2nd. We appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks, Zach. Don't take my job too soon, okay? I got a mortgage.
You got to succeed, all right?
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it, Chris. There's Chris Carlin joining us. All right, we'll take a break. Barrett Brooks will go from guest to guest. Will join us next, and we'll get back to the Carson Wentz conversation.